Today I want to talk to you about the cost of startups. Like, what are the costs when you're doing a startup? And that's not only a value and a monetary cost. I will show you later. But first of all, a startup founder is a founder, but not every founder is a startup founder. I personally realized that when I've been an entrepreneur almost all my life, but I haven't been always a startup founder. So in theory, I've always been a founder, but not always a startup founder. There's a big difference there. Because usually what you have is when you're starting up a business, you usually have a product and you're just going to market that. So you buy a product and you try to sell it with something for more value. And so you make a little bit of money out of that, and then you try to maybe do some other products and then grow your business in that way. That's I wouldn't say the old way of doing business, because still a lot of business is being done that way, but that's like a big difference between a startup founder and a normal founder, is that the startup founder looks differently upon the way that he acquires his product, or maybe at that point develop his product. So a little bit about me. I started out with building computers. I had a little company when I was still in university that was advising and supplying computer hardware to companies. I was doing that beside my study, and it brought a little bit of drinking money for the Saturday evening into my pocket. And that was like normal economy, buying something for X, trying to sell it for Y, and have at that point a little bit of money on the side. After that, I started a wholesale PC part company. That was when I just finished university, and I started buying in bulk computer parts and try to sell it to the local market. All in that way of the normal economy, goods going from A to B. After that, I wanted to do more in the service way, and I started a data recovery company. Data recovery, recovering data from hard drives that are broken. Very technical, very specialized. Absolutely not scalable, but I was mostly doing the marketing and operations for that company. So after doing that, I was like, I want to be more creative. I want to do something that's a little bit more scalable than being very in the technical side. So I started a UX web design company here in Hong Kong. It's still a consultancy job, but I love being and talking to customers and trying to find a solution for them for their online presence. And after that, during that actually, I also did a startup in the sense of a startup, a scalable business, and that was enabling Chinese social media for people who cannot read Chinese. All those startups, like what I did there, was about solving a problem. So if you compare it to like the normal trading product, bring it to market, then a startup is more about solving a problem and scalability, of course, and innovation. So especially when it comes to innovation, it can be still a not really scalable idea, but then at that point you're more working on groundbreaking things that will help humankind later on. So, but not all products will help later on. I don't know if you know The Office, I don't know if you've seen this particular episode, but it was around the time that the iPad was launched, so they launched a triangle. So usually with a startup, it's build, talk. You know that iterations, talk to your clients, build a little more, iterate, etc., etc. And why is this at this point I wouldn't say a very fashionable way to do, but like why can people do it this way? Because if you look at it, like if you wanted to set up a startup 10, 15 years ago, you maybe needed 5 million US in funding just to set up your service. You had to buy servers, you had to buy software, you had to put them in a data center, you had to like make them communicate with all of each other. And that was just 15 years ago. Now you get probably the same kind of computer power and the same kind of flexibility with only 500 US a month. And if you're really hustling and you're really new, you can get it even for free. There are a lot of companies out there that want new startups to join them, so at that point you get all those service power for free. That means that the cost of doing that are pretty low. So what you see is that a lot of people are setting up startups because not everybody has 5 million US, but most of the people can at least spare 500 US a month on their services. So it's not only that, it's also the upcoming of these things. The smartphones. They really helped in making a scalable but also a very cost-efficient way of a service that you're thinking of to distribute that to your potential customers. Because think of that if you're building an app and you also have to supply your customers with an actual device that runs that app. You don't have to do that because there's already a device like that. And even now with the Apple Watch, it's even getting better and better. If you look at the way that people use data at this point, is that even in 2010, the amount of data used for data was, the traffic used for data was twice the traffic used for voice. And you see very low, the yellow-orange kind of bars, that is actually stays the same. But the amount of traffic used for data is growing exponentially. Even like last year, it grew 55%. That means that services, apps, all the things are being pushed through a lot of networks. But what makes us use those apps, what makes us use those services? Like, why are we keeping glued to our phones? Because who here has heard about the Fogg behavioral model? One. Okay. The Fogg behavioral model basically writes out like what makes people get a behavior, something that you do. And that's this. This is the Fogg behavior model. The behavior is a motivation, an ability, and a trigger. So, for instance, sir, when was the last time you didn't pick up your phone? Can you remember when that was? That you like missed the call? Yeah? Why didn't you pick up?
I was doing something else.
So there wasn't an ability. Yeah? Maybe the phone rang. Maybe you wanted, there was a motivation, you wanted to pick up that phone, but you were busy, so you weren't able to do so. That point, if you look at this graph, is that one of those three were missing, so at that point you don't have a behavior. So if you put this into apps, then at that point it's not a secret sauce. It's not that you're like, if I put this in, then definitely my app will work and go viral, etc., etc. But no, that's actually not the case. But this is at least the basic that you would have. If you don't have a trigger, nobody will come back to your app. So if your phone doesn't ring, you don't know that you have to pick it up. Even if you want to pick it up, and even you have the ability because you were doing anything else, but if there is no trigger, you won't do the behavior of picking up that phone. So what are habit-forming products? Can somebody say like an app that is a habit-forming product here? Facebook. Anything else? WhatsApp? Twitter? Quite okay. These are all habit-forming products. People invest in this. People put time in this, but also they have the triggers. They have their likes, their notifications, but also they invested. They put a lot of time and effort in putting photos online, and they would hate to see that go away. Yeah? So to do this, and there are some startups that done this very well, and also in a short period of time. For instance, Instagram. They're only 18 months old when they were acquired for 1 billion, and they only had 12 people working for them. Yeah, so to see what the costs are to actually do this, and being acquired for 1 billion aren't that big. Like you can, with a relatively short amount of money compared to at least 10 to 15 years ago, can build something and be successful. But as I call that a revolution in startups, because it's much more easier. The economics are much preferable for startups, but it also means that a lot of startups fail because there are a lot of people that just do this on the side, or they're not really passionate about, but they just want to do this. And that's why the success of a startup is not just one factor. There's a lot of factors here. So talking about that is like, what are then the costs of doing a startup? Because you can do a startup, but you can also, as an opportunity cost, go work for a corporation and then earn money. Because usually startups don't earn money at all, at least not in the first year. Yeah, so there are opportunity costs, definitely. If you quit your job, you don't have that salary anymore. So you have to be very careful in am I really going to do this? The other way, there's also mental health cost. I've seen founders breaking down completely. Last year we had a talk from Martin Kessler, and he did a talk about, who was here by the way last year also? Can I show some hands? 1, 2, okay. He did a talk about how he, at that point, was not really able to manage his team into success. And that took a toll on his health, his physical health. He's running marathons, by the way, now, but that's something else. And besides mental health cost, you also have your relationship cost. And that was also something that Martin talked about. He talked about his relationship with his girlfriend, but he's getting married next week, so that's safe by now. But relationship cost, and it's not only your girlfriend or your partner or your boyfriend, it's also your family, your friends. It can take a real big toll on people around you because not everybody understands what it means to be a founder. Not everybody understands where your passion comes from. Like, why don't you start working for a big corporation? Why don't you do this or why don't you do that? Because I don't get where your passion comes from. This week I had a small talk with the moderator of the Fireside Chat later on, Josh. And he actually, he didn't know that I was talking about this, but he asked me, where did you get your passion from to mentor startups? Where does it come from? What makes you tick? And then I said at that point, I like to help people. And when I was doing the computer wholesale company. At one point, it was I think a Wednesday evening, 11 p.m. I was in the office and I had a business question, but I didn't have anybody at that point to go to ask them, like to send out an email or to call somebody like, hey, I have this question, I have this issue with a supplier, how can I solve this? And at that point, I made myself a promise that if I would be at one point in my career in the opportunity to be that person that somebody could call and help them with my experience, or maybe at that point help them connect to somebody else that could help them, that's what I'm going to do. So that's one of my passions when I'm mentoring startups, is that I want to help them and be that person that they can call because they're running into problems and they don't see an out at that point. So the success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. That's Winston Churchill said that, and that's actually true. But of course, that enthusiasm, that failure, if it gets you, then it can be a big problem if you cannot handle that. So alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So if you are a founder, like, get people around you. You're not alone. There are always people that can help you. And also this one, like, startups can be glorious, but if you can't emotionally handle serious low, don't be a founder. Be a VP or something. It's okay. You don't have to be a founder. Yeah? A lot of people think being a founder, being a startup founder is fashionable, it's hip, it's like I want to do this because everybody else is doing it. Like, no, like, it's okay to be working for a corporation. It's okay to be a vice president or a director or something. Huh? So my mea culpa, my fault, and I made down the road from where I started just after university to when I'm here, I made some big mistakes. Some that cost me a lot of money, value-wise, but also cost me a lot of energy, a lot of breakdown, because when I sold my very first company, I was physically sick for 3 days. I didn't went out of my house for like at least like a week or something, because you're selling your baby. Right? It's something that you definitely worked on very, very, very hard. But when I recently sold my third company, I just went through it without any problems. So there is kind of like, you get a little bit resistant of that, but especially for first-time founders, when they either sell it or when they fail, yes, that can be a big impact to you emotionally, physically, and it's at that point also okay to just have like 3 or 4 days complete timeout. Mm-hmm. I also down the road like had to fire people, and I now know that I did that wrong, definitely wrong. Like you try to like, can I just send this guy an email or maybe a WhatsApp or that kind of thing, because I don't want to face him, like I have to fire him, and at that point that most of the founders struggle with that. I haven't really met any entrepreneurs, any founders that say like, oh, firing a guy? No problem. And they will say it, but I'm pretty sure they have some personal issues with that too. So doing that, learning that, especially when it comes to first-time entrepreneurs, the costs are high, but the revenue can also be very high. So if you think you can handle this, do it. And like I said, gather around people around you that you can ask those questions for. Yeah? So have fun today, because we don't take ourselves 100% serious. It's postmortem. We have indeed interesting things coming on. Furzafar and I will be moderating or like emceeing the rest of the day, and we have some great interesting speakers coming up. So I want to thank you, and I want to invite the next speaker, Elsa Chan, to come up. Thank you.